group of young environmental activists embarks on a daring journey to the Amazon rainforest, determined to stop a corporation from destroying it in search of oil. Midway through their flight, disaster strikes when the plane's engine fails, sending them crashing into the jungle. Most passengers are killed instantly, but a few survivors crawl out of the wreckage, dazed and surrounded by bodies and shattered debris. While searching for a GPS device, unsettling sounds echo through the dense trees. One of the girls investigates the noise only to be pierced by an arrow. Panic erupts as a hail of arrows rains down, striking one survivor after another until they collapse. When the survivors awaken, they are bound and ferried deeper into the wilderness by boat. Upon arrival at a remote village, the captives are dragged by their hair and put on display before the tribe. Their horror deepens when they see human bodies strung up like trophies and realize with dread that they have fallen into the hands of cannibals. At the center, the tribe's female leader silences the crowd, inspects the captives carefully, and orders them locked inside a massive wooden cage. It all started from a university in the United States. A young student named Justine attends a class where their professor explains about female circumcision in some tribal communities in Africa. As she spoke, the professor showed graphic images to illustrate her points, which left many students visibly disturbed and uncomfortable. After class, a boy approaches Justine and tells her that Alejandro, the charismatic leader of a campus activist group, has invited her to a meeting. Alejandro is well known for leading international campaigns to defend the environment, always passionate about his causes. Since Justine also dreams of helping with humanitarian work, she decides to attend. That evening, Alejandro outlines the group's next mission. They will travel deep into the Amazon to stop a multinational company that is destroying the forest in order to extract oil, which threatens the survival of a native tribe. Alejandro explains that the company is backed by armed ex-soldiers, but their group will chain themselves to machinery and trees while broadcasting the protest live to create global outrage and force the company to withdraw. Justine calls her father, who works as a lawyer for the UN, and lies that she's going on a trip with her friends. Soon after, the group fly in a private plane to a nearby town and then continue by boat into the Amazon. Wearing identical protest uniforms, they finally arrive at the company's site. Once there, they lock chains around themselves, attach to bulldozers and trees, put on masks, and stream the entire protest online. When the company's private military force arrives, the protesters refuse to move. Everyone's chains are tightly secured, except Justine's, whose lock turns out to be defective. A soldier seizes her, presses a gun to her head, and threatens to execute her on the spot. Justine cries out for Alejandro to intervene, but Alejandro coldly tells the soldier to shoot because her death would spark international outrage once people learn her father works for the UN. The video goes viral almost instantly, forcing the corporation to stop their operations. Although the group is arrested, Alejandro's friend bribes the police, and they are quickly released. Back on their private plane, the activists celebrate their victory, but Justine feels uneasy, realizing she was used as a pawn. Mid-flight, the plane's engine fails, the pilots lose control, and part of the craft breaks off, throwing passengers out. Moments later, the plane crashes violently into the forest, and both pilots, Alejandro's wealthy friend and several others, are killed. The survivors, including Justine and Alejandro, crawl from the wreckage, surrounded by corpses and scattered debris. The group searches the wreck for a GPS device, when suddenly eerie sounds echo from the jungle. Alejandro's girlfriend investigates, but an arrow shoots through her body. Panic erupts as more arrows rain down from the trees. The hidden attackers are members of a local tribe who view the outsiders as invaders. One by one, the survivors are struck and collapse unconscious. When they wake up, they find themselves bound and loaded into boats, being transferred deeper into the jungle. As they're dragged into the settlement, the captives are yanked by their hair and paraded before the villagers. To their horror, they see human corpses hanging as trophies, realizing with dread that this tribe are cannibals. At the center, the tribe's female leader orders her people to stop harassing the newcomers. She inspects them carefully, then orders them locked inside a large wooden cage, but one member of their group is missing. Soon, he is dragged before the female leader. She makes him drink a strange liquid and lays him across a stone slab. In a gruesome ritual, she gouges out his eyes and holds them up to the cheering crowd. His body is butchered, cooked, and devoured by the villagers, while the captives watch in horror, trembling with fear. That night, as the group whispers about escape, Alejandro finally reveals that the entire mission was never about saving the rainforest. He had secretly made a deal with a rival oil company that wanted the first company removed. By staging the protest, he not only earned money but also boosted his reputation as a revolutionary. He then admits that Justine was invited only because of her father's UN connections, ensuring international attention if anything went wrong. The next day, Justine notices a young tribal girl standing before her cage. Justine plays a soft tune using the flute in her necklace. Not long after, the male leader arrives and selects 3 female captives, including Justine. They are lined up before the female leader, who performs a test by inserting an object into them to check for virginity. When it is revealed that Justine is a virgin, she is separated from the others and taken into a hut. Hours later, she is returned with her face and body covered in strange paint markings, but she remembers nothing. She had been drugged into unconsciousness. Later, the tribe brings food for the captives. One of the girls stares into her bowl and discovers a piece of cooked flesh marked with a tattoo. She realizes with horror that it belonged to their missing friend who tried to escape. Overcome with grief, she smashes her bowl and slits her throat with a shard, killing herself instantly. One of the boys quickly stuffs drugs into her mouth, hoping the tribe will consume her body and become intoxicated. The plan works. After cooking and consuming her flesh, many tribespeople grow dizzy and collapse. Seizing the moment, Justine and Daniel break free and escape. Alejandro, however, knocks another companion unconscious, arguing that if too many try to escape, they will all be caught. His plan is to stay behind until the company eventually returns and rescues him. He believes that if the unconscious man is eaten first, he will survive longer. Justine and Daniel abandon him and flee. When the unconscious man awakens, he finds two tribesmen nearby, laughing hysterically. Thinking they are too intoxicated to act, he tries to distract them, but suddenly they begin biting his hand. He runs, but the tribe quickly surrounds him, tearing him apart and devouring him alive. Meanwhile, Justine and Daniel keep pushing through the dense jungle until they reach a river. From a distance, they spot smoke rising from what must be the crash site. Exhausted but determined, they press forward until nightfall, when they finally arrive at the crash site. There, they find the bodies of their friends dangle above the wreckage, arranged in a ritualistic burial display by the tribe. As Justine stares in shock, she hears the faint sound of a phone ringing from one of the corpses. When they attempt to retrieve the phone, the tribe suddenly ambushes them and knocks them unconscious. The next morning, Justine regains consciousness and finds herself being prepared for a ritual, while Daniel is bound upright against a wooden pillar. His captors smear a strange herbal paste across his skin that quickly lures a swarm of large, biting ants. His anguished screams echo through the entire village as he writhes in unbearable agony. Meanwhile, the female leader begins a disturbing ritual focused on Justine's private parts. But before the procedure is complete, a tribesman rushes in and reports that loggers have entered the forest. The villagers abandon everything and rush out to confront the intruders, leaving only a few children behind to guard Alejandro. Among them is the little girl who had earlier been moved by Justine's music. She quietly sneaks into the hut and frees her bonds. Once loose, Justine rushes to Daniel, who begs her to end his suffering. Tearfully, she knocks him out and flees with the little girl at her side. As they slip away, Alejandro calls out desperately for her to release him as well, but Justine ignores him and keeps running. The little girl guides her toward a hidden path leading toward the edge of the jungle. As a gesture of gratitude, Justine hands her the flute necklace. Soon after, Justine stumbles into a clearing where armed military forces are locked in battle with the tribe. She throws her hands into the air, yelling that "I'm American." The soldiers hesitate, then lower their weapons. One of them calls in a helicopter, which quickly evacuates her. As the pilot lifts off, he asks if there are any other survivors. After a long pause, Justine lies and says no. Days later, she sits before investigators. She tells them her friends all died in the crash and insists the tribe had cared for her, deliberately hiding the truth in order to protect the villagers from outside retaliation and to prevent government exploitation of the rainforest. Sometime later, Justine receives a phone call from Alejandro's sister. She reveals that new satellite images of the Amazon show Alejandro still alive. His entire body is painted black, a clear sign that he has joined the very tribe that once held them captive.